So if you weren't moved enough tonight, get ready for this. I hope everyone has noticed that I'm wearing my Ukraine bravery scarf, which I personally brought back from my 4th visit to Kyiv about a month ago. This was the 4th of very moving trips, the first with the late, amazing John McCain when he was a senator, to visit in the early aughts President Viktor Yushchenko, whose face was grossly discolored and disfigured in a poison assassination attempt as he was conducting his 2004 election campaign. The second was much more joyous in 2014 after the uprising that removed the Russian puppet leader, Viktor Yanukovych. The third was later the same year when I was a member of the NDI delegation that observed a fair election in Ukraine, and that delegation was led by the late, great Madeleine Albright. And the fourth was just last month, when the invitation of the government of Ukraine and my great friend, the ambassador, I was back to look at the amazing industrial base that Ukraine has built to win the fight against the unfair and illegal Russian aggression with its own drones and its own tanks and its own talent, and then plus, obviously, the aid that we are providing to help. Full disclosure, I discovered recently that my maternal grandparents, whom I thought were Russian, were actually Ukrainian. And so I'd like to consider my friend, my wonderful friend, Oksana Markarova, ambassador of Ukraine to the US since February 2021, as my ambassador, along with the US ambassador, Bridget Brink, whom I met with in Ukraine just last month. So lucky me, I have 2 ambassadors, and I get to share one of them with you right now. So my dear friend Oksana, we were together at dinner on the Saturday night after Congress finally passed the appropriations package. I'm looking right at Jason Crow, and we know he voted for it, for Ukraine and Taiwan and Israel. And I asked you to say a few words at that dinner. Please tell us what you said and how you felt that night.
Well, I will try to be diplomatic. But I said, you know, I wanted to say just one word, finally. But I'm so grateful to everyone, congressmen, but to so many people who really worked to make it happen. And it was probably the best news we have received during this difficult time, pivotal time, actually. As you know, the situation is very difficult. We're holding the line. We're not giving up. We're not allowing Russians to win, even though their friends, you know, the Iran and North Korea, really doubled down and helping them with missiles and drones and everything else. And this very difficult 6 months of discussions here, even though Europe stepped up, even though you know, our friends from Japan front-loaded their support, even though Finland started giving us from their stock something that, you know, literally they went, you know, Baltic states, which gave us everything that they had, but we cannot do it without the US. So it was such a great moment when Congress resolutely supported it in such a strong bipartisan, you know, fashion. And I think a lot of people did not talk about it, but the number of people on both sides who voted for it increased since the last packages. So both the speaker who made the right decision in a very difficult circumstances and both parties who supported it, they understood that they're not just supporting Ukraine or Israel or Taiwan. They are supporting freedom, and that was very important. Now, of course, I just want to caution everyone not to be, oh, everything is done, everything is great. because now it will take some time, and we need to shorten that time to transform this assistance into actual weapons and air defense and everything on the ground, because Russians specifically doubling down, knowing it will take time. And you see the destruction, you see the devastation in Odessa, in Kharkiv, literally on a daily basis. Like, you know, during 2 years, I don't think there is a war crime that they did not do in Ukraine. And I probably should get a bit numb to it. But when I woke up today and read the news of them hitting a football stadium in Kharkiv, you know, with kids playing at that time, you know, at least 6 kids wounded, 1 lost his life. I mean, it's a daily life in which all Ukrainians are living, and that's why we have to have everything in order to win, for us, but for all of us.
So, full disclosure, I remember at the end of that dinner, when you concluded your remarks, you said, "God bless America."
I did.
And I have to say how moving that was as an American to hear that. Well, you started to talk about the aid that is reaching you, how much more you need. There was a report this week that yesterday, I guess it was yesterday, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene told the Speaker that if he agreed to block further aid to Ukraine, she would not move to vacate his speakership. Well, she moved to vacate it today, so I can only imagine what he said to her. Good for him. But talk a little bit about the aid that has reached you, what more you need, and what more you will continue to need.
Look, first of all, we would not be able to do it without US support. And when I say God bless America, I really mean it. I mean, we will always remember the support from the United States for our independence, for our existence. As you heard me speaking before, it's an existential war for us. I mean, Russians realize they cannot occupy us, they want to destroy us now. And it's very clear. They're using these big bombs, you know, destroying residential areas, hitting places everywhere. So what do we need? I mean, the short answer is all of the above, but of course that's not the answer. So air defense, of course, is priority number 1. I mean, without, they specifically target the energy generation, not just intimidating civilians, not just destroying residential areas, trying to literally, you know, create unlivable conditions, not to push people outside. We already have 12 million people who are internally or externally displaced. They're trying to make people leave from Kharkiv or from other places. So air defense is critical because it's cheaper actually to get air defense than to build new generation plants, which is not only expensive, but will take time, and we don't have enough time until winter to do so. So air defense is the priority. Of course, artillery and longer range munition, which we are now getting, and but the scale of it, you know, for us to be able to replenish our troops on the battlefield, because it's still a very long and very hot, very active battlefield, you know, 800 miles. I mean, it's from here to longer than from here to Chicago. And it's constant daily artillery duels. And if you don't have anything to fight with, what do? You only replace it with the bravery of your people. And those are the best of us, you know, the young, the dedicated volunteers who went at the beginning of the war. So I think, you know, the good thing is that the level of cooperation between us and Pentagon, between us and Eurocom, and all other, I mean, the Ramstein group now includes more than 50 countries, is so at the level when all of our partners know exactly what we need and why and where. And so now with this bill approved by the Congress, it's just a question of actually taking decisions, finding what we can find, being brave in decision making, in providing us as much as possible so that we can make a difference. And yes, we will continue targeting you know, everywhere on our territory, everywhere in Crimea. And yes, we want to destroy that bridge. And, you know, we need to do whatever we can to disrupt Russian operations so that we can liberate our people, not only because we need to win, but think about people. I mean, we're talking about political prisoners today, people who are held hostage in so many places. Millions of Ukrainians are held hostage on the occupied territories, in Crimea for 10 years, in Donetsk and Lugansk for 10 years, in Mariupol and Melitopol for more than 2 years. Tens of thousands of children are being abducted to Russia. And Russians themselves say it's actually hundreds of thousands. These people are killed and tortured as we speak. So for us, liberating territory, it's not just about sovereignty and territorial integrity, it's about saving people.
Yeah. Well, I think your strongest weapon by far is the Ukrainian heart. It's amazing how you've done this. I agree. As long as you have, without the support that you needed. Now you're getting more support, and speaking for me, I hope our Congress keeps on doing the right thing. I also think that the ingenuity of your people building weapons that are useful, our air cover is a big part of it, and our anti-jamming weapons, but the drones and the tanks and the other things that I saw you build are possibly better than what we build, and we can learn from you about what works on the battlefield, because it is a messy, scary world, and hopefully we won't need to use those weapons ourselves. But as you said, if you don't win in Ukraine, what will happen in Europe? And don't you think the war will expand and the United States could easily be involved in it?
Absolutely. Mr. Putin is very clear about it. I mean, he has been consistently saying it over and over again, that it's not just about Ukraine. Of course, he wants to destroy us. His fixation on Ukraine is pretty well known. But it's also about Baltic states. It's about Poland. It's about, from time to time, he threatens pretty much everyone in Europe or the US, or it doesn't matter. You know, for him, this absolutely unhealthy exercise of rebuilding the empire, whether he has the Soviet Union or Russian Empire in mind, is what he's trying to do. So if, God forbid, we fall, and we do not intend to fall, but you know, then the next country next to us is a NATO country. And so we have to keep it always in mind that it's actually more effective and efficient, and it's the only way to prevent much larger war, is to stop him in Ukraine. But one other aspect, Jane, is, you know, we already see the results of not winning fast enough. The Iranian drones that they have been using on us have been pretty bad at the beginning. In 2 years of using it against us, they improved them. They started producing them together in Russia. And what do we see when they use them against Israel? Those are the improved Shahid drones that they used for 2 years against us. So by winning in Ukraine, we will also send a resounding signal to other dictators, and we will deter them from the war crimes that they contemplate, looking at this and seeing whether the civilized world, democratic world, is strong enough and is resolute enough.
So you saw in the video that Freedom House has long worked in Ukraine. Before the war started, Freedom House did a lot of work with Ukrainian civil society to support efforts to combat hate-motivated violence, help with dialogue between Ukrainian law enforcement and civil society groups, etc. And it is still doing what it's able to do, documenting war crimes, trying to help with this shameful exercise in abducting children that Russia is conducting at a much larger scale than has been understood, etc. What more can Freedom House and human rights groups do now to help you win?
Well, first of all, thank you for everything you've done. I think even you do not understand fully what impact it had in Ukraine. Because we always talk about, of course, our brave President Zelensky, who's leading the nation through this. We talk about our brave men and women in the uniform. But actually the civil society, you know, this network of you know, bright young women and men who were dealing with domestic violence or anti-corruption or women's rights or anything that Freedom House helped to work with when the war started. Unlike, you know, big organizations, they didn't move out. They actually moved closer to the front line. They started delivering food or doing whatever they can, fighting for the country. And it's this civil society, this network, that is such a big basis of the resilience, Ukrainian resilience. So keep doing that more, because after we win the war, we have to win the peace. And we're working on that now. you know, and so many people do it. Now, the second big point is we heard from, again, so many people or, you know, their relatives who are imprisoned now. And I think, you know, when we talk about international affairs, sometimes we make it too complicated and we say it's very complex, you know, no, we have to deal with the leaders even though they're doing bad things, right? But before people like Putin attack Ukraine like he did in 2014 or in 2022, they have done a number of bad things at home. He killed journalists, he prosecuted his own people, he conducted 2 Chechen wars, genocidal wars, to kill people inside his house. So this work of calling it, stopping it, and saying, no, that's not right, and calling on other governments to actually isolate them, stop working with them, do not invite them, do not sit around the table. We have to learn how to actually get these people out from G20s or, you know, G8s, right. Thanks God he's not there anymore, from the Security Councils of the UN. You know, why are these war criminals, indicted war criminals, are still there? And Freedom House, you know, this is what is also the biggest importance of that, to be right. public about it, to say and to call and to stop it while it's the human rights violation, because it will lead to an aggression. It's just a matter of time.
So that is why so many of us in this room connected to Freedom House are so proud of that connection. And that is why those of you not directly connected to Freedom House need to help us even more. And as we celebrate, yes you do, right Norm, right? And as you do, please celebrate this marvelous ambassador who makes the case so well and for so long in this city, which finally stepped up to provide the aid Ukraine should have had months and months ago. I am so proud of the fact that I have 2 Ukrainian ambassadors, and one of them is right here. Please celebrate her.
Thank you.